Hi everybody, welcome to this session on continuing series on all about interviews, and in today's session I'm going to talk about the group interview process. This is something that is very exclusive to one particular institute called SPJIMR, that's SPJIMR, and popularly known amongst CAT aspirants, and one of the only colleges to conduct a group interview, right? So in today's session, I'm going to deal with some of the common misconceptions, or what we call myths, about group interviews. My name is Anand Venkatesan. I'm an educator with Unacademy. Not only have I graduated from IIM Bangalore, but I've also spent the last decade helping students navigate both the written test as well as the personal interview and GD/WAT stage. Before I go ahead, do join us, do follow us on social media. That's the Unacademy CAT4MBA channel on YouTube, as well as the CAT4MBA handle on Telegram. You can keep in touch with me by following my handle as well. That's given over there. Right, let's get into the actual session for today. So what is a group interview? Well, SPJIMR usually gives out two kinds of shortlists. They come out with a profile-based shortlist. Some of you would already receive those calls, but when the CAT percentile is announced, there is a further shortlist that they come out with. But irrespective of when you get shortlisted, the process that they follow is that of conducting group interviews. Typically, there are 2 rounds of group interviews along with a psychometric test that they normally conduct. But this time I believe that there is going to be a change in that format. They're probably going to drop the psychometric psychometric test. They probably might not even have 2 group interviews, if a group interview at all. However, in the spirit of preparation, I'm still going to discuss what the dynamic usually is as far as group interviews go. Now, why do they conduct 2 group interviews? Well, one of them is supposed to be a technical round, followed by a second, which was usually an HR or a situational or a behavior based interview. Well, is that the specific sequence in which the interviews happen? Yes, largely speaking, you are expected to first attend a technical interview based on your specialization. You're grouped up into various groups, and then you're undergoing a technical interview. How many panelists are there? There usually is a couple of panelists, but sometimes given the volume of applicants there, you expect to see actually only one person conducting the interview. The technical round is followed by the psychometric test, and then they come out with a shortlist. People who qualify for the second round then sit through an HR round where questions are more personal, more situational, more to gauge your behavior and the way your personality is built, right? And that's something that is tested. These are, remember, knockout rounds, which means at every stage there are candidates who get filtered out, who get rejected, and then the qualifying candidates move on to the HR round, followed by a final selection, right? So that's the process that they follow. But let's talk about some myths, because the moment you start talking about a group interview, immediately there are some associations we draw, and again, if you go through popular forums, there are plenty of myths that float around among students. So I'm going to address the 4 main myths surrounding group interviews. The first myth is that group interviews are not really technical, right? Because the perception here is that, well, you're sitting with 5 people. Remember, a group interview is typically the group is composed of about 5 to 7 candidates. Well, if you're sitting amongst 5 candidates, how is it that you could be quizzed about technical details? Because it's not like all the members of your group are of the same specialization of most of them are of the same specialization, but they might not be from the same discipline. So technical interviews are a little hard to imagine, but let me reassure you, most interviews in the first round indeed will be technical, which means that expect to be quizzed either on your undergraduate discipline, whether it's commerce or arts, or if it's engineering. Make sure that you are comfortable with the basics of your subject. Choose 3 subjects, I would suggest, and make sure that you know them inside out. The second technical aspect that would be tested is your affinity for that particular chosen specialization. So if you are going in for marketing, if you're going in for finance, then you better have a very good reason for doing so, but also be very clear about what those specializations indicate. So if you're working in finance, know the kind of roles that you could follow suit with, and what kind of skills would you need maybe a little bit of reading up. So if you're saying that you want to become an investment banker and that's why you want to pursue the finance specialization, be prepared to at least have a discussion around the capital markets, around stocks and shares, and maybe even balance sheet, and hence the balance sheet metrics that you could use to evaluate firms that are listed. Right. So if you're in marketing, for example, maybe expect to get questions on what are the 4Ps, how do you design marketing communication, how is how are ads conceived of, maybe even from an application point of view, which ad do you like and why, and how do you think these ads can be improved upon, etc., etc. Right. So make sure, expect a technical interview and be prepared for one. Right. Okay. Second myth. Well, it's a group interview, so it must be like a group discussion. What does that mean? It means that you feel comfortable in a group setting to interlude in the middle of a conversation, come in and add your own value add points, what is known in B school parlance as CP, right? Class participation. So bilkul mat karna class participation. It's a group interview. It is a very, very formal situation. Questions are usually addressed by the moderators at individuals within the group. So it's not like a group discussion. You're not expected to add to what your friend has said. Well, you can still seek permission. It is a formal process, but if you follow the proper rules of formal engagement, then you can actually pitch in with your own ideas, your own additional points. And another thing why it's not a group discussion is because, don't try to be loud, don't try to outshout others. This is a very, very calm process. Rarely ever is a group interview chaotic or noisy. Common myth number 3. Well, we've just said that it's not a group discussion, which means that questions will only be addressed to individuals. So again, this is a common myth, because what that means is that when somebody else is answering a question, don't switch off, right? Make sure that you're listening all the time. Remember, interviews are, the interviewer is, or the moderator is looking at you, is keeping tabs of your reaction. Are you listening? Are you in the discussion or not? Do you place importance to this process, right? So do listen very, very carefully, and also do anticipate sometimes that the questions will pass over. Let's say there is a question that was asked about a particular specialization to a particular candidate. It's quite possible that you would be asked to comment on what your friend has just said. So unless you're listening, unless you're involved in the discussion, you won't really have much to say. So please be involved in the discussion. And this can be especially tricky when it comes to questions on ethics. But then let me cover that with myth number 4, which is that ethical questions do come in the second round, but ethical questions are all about finding the gray area. Most people have this perception that when posed with an ethical situation, there is no right, there is no wrong, there is only a great in between. And you're probably right. Most questions are not so straightforward to answer. You can actually question the assumptions that go into it. You can question the context that you're in, the situation that you're in. You can question the end goal or end objective as well. But having said all of that, remember that in a B school, ethics are given the most priority, which means that, what that translates for you as an aspirant is that any hint that you lack ethical judgment will be counted severely against you, which means that you might lose that seat only because you took a stance that was in the gray and not black and white. So my suggestion hence would be, please always assume the idealistic stance in an ethical situation, in an ethical, so let's say, a very, very common situation is that, okay, you're in charge of a particular territory and there is somebody, a distributor of yours who has invested money into the firms, into buying the firm's products and goods. And on the 31st, in order to meet your sales target, your boss calls you up and gives you a specific directive asking you to force this distributor to pick up some goods, right? So what would you do? Well, it's very easy and very, very practical to say, yes, it's my boss who's told me, and so I should be doing what he says. But if you step back and ask yourself, is that the organizational goal? Is that something that the company wants? Am I fulfilling that duty as an employee? Then you'll get a very, very straight answer saying, no, that's not what the company wants. The company does not want me to indulge in unethical behavior. I'm probably harming the company, if anything. So take your stance from that perspective. Insist that you will not force the distributor, but at the same time, since this is a gray area, you do not want to displease your boss. You want to do it with a bit of tact, right? So maybe what this entails is a strong stance, but also a very equally strong way ahead on what you would do to manage the situation and to make sure that you don't ruffle too many feathers. So probably a good idea to have a discussion with your boss, tell him your insecurities and tell him that you're willing to handle it another way. Take maybe the distributor into confidence. All three of you can together work out a solution where the targets are also met, but the distributor's concerns are also addressed. Always try to find that middle ground while not flouting any ethical norms, right? That's going to be my big advice to you. On that note, I come to the end of these 4 minutes. I hope that I've thrown some light on what goes on in a group interview, and I hope I've laid out those traps that you will avoid in your actual process. Wish you guys all the very best for your SPGen calls, and do let me know in the comments how you liked the session. If this helped in your actual interview, do let me know in the chat. Give me a shout. Do like, share, and subscribe. All right. I have a couple of quick announcements to make. Unacademy, last year we've had fantastic results. CAT percentilers on your screen clearly show that our students have done us proud, and you indeed could be one of them, or maybe one of your friends could be. So do check them out. In terms of value that we offer, there is plenty, right? We have something called an Iconic CAT, which gives you personal mentorship. Educators are of pretty much the highest quality in the country. We have the best of batches, which allow you to study in a structure while also using the test series and practice tests in order to upskill yourself, become faster, right? And remember, all of these, not everything is paid for. There are special classes that are conducted on the Unacademy app, which you can use as trial before you decide to pay up for a subscription plan. When you choose a subscription plan, you are either subscribing for a Plus or an Iconic. The only difference between Plus and Iconic: Plus gives you access to educators, multiple batches, the ability to attend live sessions, and also download PDFs while also taking tests and quizzes, mocks, etc. Iconic basically layers a personalized mentorship plan with this, which means that you get a mentor who's allotted to you, who helps you clarify all your doubts, who can help you analyze your mock performance, and also take classes for you. So that's the big advantage that comes with Iconic. Some expert to guide you every step of the way. These are the prices for the subscription plans. Ideally, I would say if you're looking at next year's CAT, choose the 1-year program, and you'll get a further 10% discount by using my referral code. That's AV01 shown here on the screen. Right, that wraps up my session, guys. I hope you liked it. Do like, share, and subscribe this video. Do follow us on Telegram. I will come up with more such interesting tidbits. Till then, see you. Bye.